7:15 a.m. on the production floor. A machine operator seems a little off today. Slower, unsteady, not quite himself. Is that enough to act on? By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to answer that. This isn't about catching someone. It's about protecting that employee, their coworkers, and everyone on this floor, using a process that's specific, fair, and defensible. As a supervisor or manager, you may be the only line of defense against a serious accident. This training gives you the tools to recognize impairment and respond the right way, every time. Here's what we'll cover: what reasonable suspicion really means, the physical and behavioral signs of alcohol and drug use, the 5-step process, and how to handle the conversation itself. Reasonable suspicion means you personally observe specific, in-the-moment signs, not a hunch, not a rumor, that lead a reasonable person to believe an employee may be impaired. It has to be observable, contemporaneous, and articulable, meaning you saw it yourself, it's happening right now, and you can clearly describe it in words. Quick check. Think about your own facility for a second. Who besides you might be relied on to make this call? A shift lead? An HR manager? We'll come back to this. This applies anytime someone is performing a safety-sensitive function, operating machinery, driving a forklift, working at heights, or handling hazardous materials. Basically, any task where impairment raises the risk of an accident. Here's a sobering fact. NIOSH estimates that roughly 10% of workplace fatalities are alcohol-related, and substance abuse costs U.S. employers an estimated $266 billion a year in lost productivity and related expenses. This is exactly why this training exists. One critical rule before we go further: you cannot act on hearsay. If a coworker tells you, "I think he's high," that alone is not enough. You must personally observe the signs yourself. Let's start with alcohol. Watch for dulled reactions, poor balance, bloodshot or watery eyes, slurred speech, and the smell of alcohol on breath or clothing. Even small amounts matter. Research shows judgment and reaction time can already begin to decline at a blood alcohol concentration as low as 0.02%. Behaviorally, look for sudden mood swings, unusual aggression, or a noticeable difference from how this person normally acts on shift. Scenario: a forklift operator you know as steady and quiet is suddenly loud, stumbling slightly, and you catch a whiff of alcohol as he passes. Is that reasonable suspicion? Decide before we continue. Answer: yes. You have physical, behavioral, and odor-based indicators together on someone about to operate a forklift. That combination is exactly what this process is built to catch. Remember, you're not diagnosing alcoholism. You're documenting what you personally saw, heard, and smelled, using specific, factual language. Now let's shift to drug indicators, a wider range of signs depending on the substance, but the same rule applies every time. Observe, confirm, document. Marijuana use often shows up as reddened, very bloodshot eyes, droopy eyelids, slowed speech, chronic fatigue, and a distinct odor on clothing. Stimulants like cocaine or amphetamines look very different. Dilated pupils, excessive sweating, tremors, uncontrolled talkativeness, and dramatic mood swings. Opiates, including prescription painkillers, often cause drowsiness, constricted pupils, low or raspy speech, and impaired coordination. Regardless of substance, watch the 4 categories together: appearance, speech, behavior, and odor. Any combination of these should raise your attention. New scenario: an assembly line worker has pinpoint pupils, seems unusually drowsy, and forgets a simple instruction you gave 2 minutes ago. What's your first move? Confront immediately, or something else first? Think it through. The right first move is to consider medical causes. Diabetes, seizure disorders, and legitimate prescriptions can produce identical signs, so ask calmly about medical conditions before assuming impairment. This is also why confirmation is its own step. If you're the only one who saw it and you're not fully confident, pull in a second trained supervisor before confronting anyone. And remember, a suspicious substance being found doesn't skip this process. You still observe, confirm, and document before jumping to any conclusion. Also, watch for indirect warning signs that build over time. Unexplained absences, declining performance, frequent illness, avoiding supervisors, or unusual defensiveness. None of this means you're playing detective or therapist. Your job is simple. Notice specific facts and follow the process, not diagnose, not counsel, not judge. One more important boundary: don't ignore what you see. Failing to act on clear signs creates just as much risk as acting on flimsy evidence. Now let's walk through the 5-step process that turns your observations into a fair, defensible action. Step 1. Observation. You personally notice unusual, uncharacteristic behavior in the moment, not something you heard about later. Step 2. Confirmation. Confirm the signs you saw are consistent with impairment, and if you're unsure, get a second trained supervisor's independent observation. Step 3. Documentation. Write down exactly what you observed: appearance, behavior, speech, and odor, being specific, brief, and objective. Do this immediately, before memory fades. Quick check. Which of these is better documentation? He seemed high, or slurred speech, dilated pupils, dropped tools twice in 5 minutes at 7:22 a.m. Pick before the answer appears. The second one, obviously, specific, factual, time-stamped. Vague impressions don't hold up. Observable facts do. Step 4. Confrontation. Speak to the employee immediately, privately, and never in front of coworkers. State exactly what you observed. No accusations, no diagnosis. Remove the employee from all safety-sensitive tasks the moment you approach them. No machinery, no forklifts, no continuing the shift until this is resolved. Be ready for any reaction: denial, anger, tears, silence, or non-stop talking. Stay calm, stay respectful, and repeat your observations without backing down. Step 5. Testing. Direct the employee to the testing site immediately after the conversation, and never let them drive themselves there. Many company policies recommend testing for alcohol within 2 hours if possible, and no later than 8 hours, a best practice borrowed from federal DOT standards, even though it's not a legal requirement outside DOT-regulated roles. Always follow your specific company policy. Drug testing has more flexibility. It can generally happen anytime reasonable suspicion exists while the employee is on duty, per your company's written policy. Let's revisit that earlier question. Who else needs this training? The answer: anyone your company relies on to make this call, formally or informally, on any shift. Keep every record confidential, secured, and accessible only to those with a legitimate need to know, following your company's retention policy. Now let's see the entire process in action, from first notice to resolution. Diane, a shift supervisor, notices Carlos, a machine operator, moving slower than usual and slurring his words while giving a routine status update. Unsure if it's enough alone, Diane asks Marcus, another trained supervisor, to independently observe before anyone approaches Carlos. Marcus documents specific facts immediately: slowed speech, delayed reaction time, and a noticeable change from Carlos's normal demeanor, all time-stamped. Together, they approach Carlos privately, calmly stating exactly what they observed, and immediately remove him from his machine. Diane arranges for Carlos to be driven to the testing site. He never gets behind the wheel himself. Before we reveal the outcome, did Diane and Marcus follow the process correctly? What, if anything, would you have done differently? The test confirmed impairment. Because Diane and Marcus documented everything correctly and acted immediately, the decision held up completely, protecting Carlos, his coworkers, and the entire floor. Let's lock in what matters most. Know the signs across all four categories. Never rely on hearsay alone. Document facts immediately, and never let an impaired employee drive or keep working. This video covers the core knowledge, but check with your HR or safety team on any additional state-required training hours, testing timeline policies, or legal review needed to complete your certification. Reasonable suspicion isn't about catching people, it's about catching problems early before they become accidents. That's the job, and now you're ready for it. Thanks for completing this training. Stay alert, stay factual, and stay ready.